Hey there, and welcome to the Create With podcast. This is where we talk about building apps and software with AI and no code, so without necessarily being a programmer. I'm here today with Kieran,
Hello, everyone. Hello, James.
and I'm James. Yeah, great to be back. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about this week, so I think we're going to be covering a few things from kind of Lovable, experimenting with N8N, the latest APIs from Perplexity as well. Another thing I've been playing with, but I've been reading your posts this week, Kieran, about your experiments with Lovable. I know it's something that we're kind of reading about more and more, and its growth seems to be absolutely incredible at the moment. So I don't know if you want to kind of just give us a bit of an intro to what Lovable is first of all, and then what you've been doing with it.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I've been obviously following along what's going on with like AI generated code for the past few months, probably a year by now. I don't know. And I tried to use stuff like Cursor, but I found it like pretty overwhelming because you see all the files, all the code, and it's just like, do you want me to do this? And you're like, okay, and then you still got to like deploy it and stuff like that. So then I tried Replit because you can, like, it's kind of hosted on Replit, so theoretically you should be able to get something working, and they have an AI agent that's supposed to help you like do all the do all the coding. But I couldn't get anything working on that either. I think it's probably because I was trying to do a Chrome extension, browser extension. I think maybe that's one of the things that you can't really just do in Replit because you kind of need to like upload it into Chrome and all this stuff. But what I found from both of those was when I was trying to make something actually work, I'd get to a point where it would just keep generating errors and I'd keep asking it to fix them, and both of them got stuck. It's probably my fault. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either of those tools, but I thought I'd give it another try, and this time I tried Lovable, which I'd heard a few people talking about, and after an hour of prompting it, I actually managed to get something working, which was like blew my mind, and totally I saw the light. I was a convert immediately, but I just started out with quite a detailed prompt of the idea I had, which was I wanted to it's like building this app that I built a few years ago in Bubble, but I wanted to see if it could do it. And it's basically pasting a YouTube URL. You can watch back the video and you can leave time tagged comments as the video is going. And as you start typing, it pauses the video automatically. So you have time to type your comment, then you press enter, saves the comment, and the video plays automatically. And then you can share that page with other people. So I just told her what I wanted, and it kind of just led me through a process. We had to link up Superbase, but that was like, normally I'd find that quite daunting. It was really easy. It was literally a case of create a Superbase account and then you just connect them. And then it can create your database tables for you. So you never need to go back into Superbase really. It will do all that. It set up user authentication. Anything I didn't want, I just said like, can you get rid of that or can you change that? And it managed to do it. And there were times during the process where I would test the app and there would be an error, something wasn't working, but every time it managed to fix those errors after I said, can you fix this? Managed to do it first time, which is, that's unusual based on my experience. We ended up with an app that it was me and an AI ended up with an app that actually works. And the interesting thing about Lovable is some of the other ones I think Bolt.new, which I haven't tried yet, but definitely like Replit and Cursor, you see the code, you can see the whole code base and you can see what it's changing, which obviously if you're a coder, that's going to be useful. With Lovable, you can't actually see the code. You are literally just prompting it. You can't dive into the code and like change a value or change a hex code or something like that, because it's not visible to you. You can see it if you link up your GitHub account, and then you can like edit the code in GitHub. But it's quite interesting in that the only way of interacting with it is by writing these prompts. And the other thing that I found was you run out of prompts like that you're allowed quite quickly. You need to I had to upgrade to a paid plan. So you can definitely try out for free and like do something small, but fairly quickly run out of prompting power and you need to upgrade to like $20 a month. So I think that's one downside, but yeah, just super impressed, and really got me thinking about like, yeah, what is the future of development? I know we've discussed this a lot, but it did get me excited about the stuff I could potentially build, and little things like getting it to do the kind of time tagging of the comments. So the YouTube video is playing, you type the comment in. I was like, I want it to pause as I'm typing, and then when I press enter, I want it to save the comment and then start playing again. So I don't have to I can just keep typing and press enter, and I don't have to click anything. And it took a few iterations, but it managed to do that functionality very quickly and very smoothly, which if you are building that in something like Bubble, I have done it before. I needed a custom plugin built by a developer to do it, and there wasn't much code involved, but I still needed it to be done with a custom plugin. So little things like that, it was super quick to do, and that's kind of impressive. And then all the auth stuff working as well was really quick.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm reading so much about it, so it's interesting to hear some like a real life story of making something with it and getting it through to working. I think the billing thing on the pricing sounds kind of similar to how Cursor works, and yeah, I kind of hit the limits in that a couple of times. When you upgraded onto the Lovable paid plan, what are the limits like there in terms of prompts? Because I know when I'm working with Claude, I'll be doing a lot of prompts back and forth, changing stuff. So that would be my only kind of. I'd be interested to know how that pricing worked on Lovable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I know that it's not that great on the $20 plan. Like even then, because I was watching some tutorials and people were like, even on the $20 plan, you are still quite limited. So the fact that it was able to solve all the issues first time was really good. I'd be interested to see like how far it could get in terms of the complexity of the app. And it does kind of feel a bit unfair if you're having to upgrade because the platform you're on, the AI keeps making bugs in your code and you have to ask it to fix it, which was not really the experience with this one. But yeah, I'd be interested to know if I could actually build a full SaaS product with like payments and everything integrated using this. I mean, that would be quite a good experiment. Like I could even expand on the little one that I built already and see if I could turn it into something, because really you just need to add payments and it's already kind of a micro SaaS. I imagine you'd have to upgrade to a higher plan.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like we're pretty much on the edge of being able to build and deploy an entire app with only prompts and have it like a full complex SaaS. From what I've seen so far, most of the demos I've seen for Lovable are fairly like single purpose things. They're not like super complex, but like even from what Sam Altman was saying this weekend, like by the end of 2025, programming is going to be radically different. So I'm expecting more and more big announcements that are going to completely upend how we make stuff. So while I think we're not quite there on deploying a full complex SaaS just from prompts yet, we're very close. I mean, the other thing we also saw over the last week or two was Bubble announcing their kind of Bubble AI Assist rolling out more widely. So we saw the previews at BubbleCon last year. This is effectively similar. It's getting very similar to Lovable now, where you're going from prompt to kind of full pages of app that are connected up with UI and workflows and everything. So I've seen that's opened up from Bubble in the last week. So exciting to see that coming along, because I think, like you say, the one thing that feels kind of missing from tools like Lovable at the moment is a visual editor and a visual way of seeing what it's actually done and being able to change stuff. So seeing workflows, seeing the UI and being able to very easily change it with prompts ideally. So yeah, interesting to see Bubble move into that space as well.
I tried. Someone they actually did a test between, I think it was Bolt, Lovable, and Bubble, giving them the same prompt. And I tried out all three of the apps, and yeah, it was very interesting the difference between them. But I was actually amazed by the Bubble one. It was like out of the three of them, it had the most functionality. The styling wasn't as nice as the other ones, but yeah, it like had way more functionality than you would expect. I think it was like a task management thing, but just from one prompt, it had built like a decent functional app. So yeah, I don't know how they've done that behind the scenes at Bubble, but I think it's really cool. They must have, I guess, trained an AI model on how the Bubble engine works, and then somehow made a way that it can automatically generate workflows and stuff like that. But yeah, it feels like you do need to be able to see exactly how things work under the lid, because like, you know, it's very well being able to build a functional product. I mean, it used to be you just build a UI with AI, and now it's like a functional app. But when that actually, you know, gets deployed into production and you start getting real users, like, then there's a ton of questions about like, how do you know it's stable? How do you make changes to it without breaking other parts for people? How do you debug errors? How do you, you know, answer questions for customers about their accounts and stuff like that? So yeah, there's just so many complexities to running a SaaS business that go beyond the actual like having a functional product. And when you're familiar with a platform like Bubble, you know how to like find out customer data and how to, you know, build dashboards and stuff for yourself, and how to build things on test and try them out and then deploy them to production without breaking stuff and roll things back. But yeah, those are still question marks, certainly for me, with these AI code generators.
Yeah, it's definitely they're on a journey, but they are moving very quick to adding in a ton of that stuff. And actually, it kind of touches on a conversation I had with JJ Englert this week about basically aiming to run a SaaS autonomously through things like agents to help you out with everything. Because I think we've covered obviously a lot building software with AI. But obviously, with running a startup, there's a ton of other functions as well, like customer support, marketing, operations, all these other things. And I think that's where it's going to be really interesting, kind of diving into where can AI actually help with and take over a lot of those kind of tasks of running a startup. And yeah, I did an interview with JJ that we put out last week. Actually, we'll link it in the description. That was really interesting, talking about AI agents and using tools like Zapier, Make, N8N to, you know, start to build these kind of autonomous agents that can do these kinds of things. I thought JJ had a really good example of what these can do with his podcast booking agent. So if someone applied to be on his podcast, it would kind of do research on them, funnel them into different flows depending on what it found out about them and what they answered in the form, and then book in the slot for the podcast with them, send them all the podcast details and the reminders and all this kind of stuff, which is, you know, typically something that's actually quite time consuming to do. But agents are increasingly able to do that kind of thing. And I've been experimenting a bit over the last week or two with N8N. So I kind of have set up a self-hosted instance of it on DigitalOcean. And I'm just, I mean, the first thing I've experimented with it is to do like an onboarding email agent. So when a user signs up for my app, it will scrape their site and then send a personal email from my Gmail account to them, just you know, like welcoming them, offering them assistance and stuff. This is in addition to all the kind of automated type flows that we've talked about before. This is more of a personal feeling type thing. Which I was just doing to experiment with it, really. But there's a ton of other stuff that I really want to look at with it yet soon. I'm not 100% sold on using it for customer support yet. I've still not had a good experience with a customer support bot. I find them quite frustrating. Like until we get to the point or where an AI agent can take all of the actions that a human operator can take in resolving issues, I'm not really that comfortable with putting over customer support onto an AI agent yet, because I feel half the time they just don't know, they don't have the ability to enact the stuff that they need to be able to But that's definitely something I'm looking into as well, trying to connect an operator with the back end of my app so that it can take all those actions, they can issue refunds and all that kind of stuff without necessarily me having to do it. But that's pretty much a work in progress. But for other things like making documentation, that's something I'm really looking at agents for. So every time I deploy change to my app, can I have the agent go and log in, scrape through the app, screenshot all the sections. So if I've updated a flow, it'll go and screenshot it all and then write the documentation in Markdown and update the documentation. Stuff like that, which is like really time consuming to do as a human, but it's actually not that much need for my input in it a lot of the time. An agent could go and do that, and it could go through the product and if I just say I've added a new feature that does XYZ, please go and update the documentation. That's what I'm really looking forward. As much as possible, I'm really aiming for this concept of a self-driving startup where I can be kind of the orchestrator of a ton of these agents that are doing things like marketing, documentation, support, building the product. But it's actually these agents that are doing it. I think we're very, very early in that at the moment, but I think it's going to move very quickly. So yeah, I'm super, super interested in that because I think there's a massive opportunity there for very, very small businesses, solopreneurs to build, really complex and powerful software without needing a huge team if we can kind of orchestrate these agents in the right way. So yeah, that's been super interesting to dive into a bit over the last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is so empowering to think that this stuff could be possible because yeah, when you think about being a solopreneur, there are so many hats you have to wear and so many things you have to juggle. And if you can build out all these different flows like the ones you're talking about to automate a lot of that stuff, then you can really focus on a lot of the more important strategic stuff. The ideal situation would be to have one of these agents that does all the marketing for you, because that's the hard bit. And a lot of marketing is very repetitive, quite mundane stuff. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I read the interview with JJ and I was like, he made an interesting point about like in the future you might be able to hire agents rather than using a SaaS. I don't know what you think about that. Because I kind of feel like a good SaaS is a bit like an agent, really. Like it does a load of stuff for you and you don't have to do too much. That's kind of the point of it. But I guess he's thinking like in the future it could just be you just like give it a file of data or something and just tell it what to do, and your whole interface will just be like a chatbot kind of thing, and then it will just go and do it for you and return the results, which is a pretty interesting view of the future, I think.
Yeah, I think we're very close to that. In fact, I think in the last week I saw a post, I think it was from Firecrawl, which is this like website crawling tool, and they'd actually posted a job listing that had, if you are an AI agent, you can apply for this job, to do stuff. So I can imagine we'll start to see more and more of that. And yeah, I think the lines of what a SaaS is are probably going to be very blurred over the next few years as we kind of transition into this world of AI where, I think it's Satya Nadella was saying about, how effectively SaaS may be kind of replaced by a UI on top of a CRUD database that's just orchestrated by AI, basically by an LLM that actually gets the task that you want done. So, yeah, like for example, with my app, User Loop, that's doing surveys, does there really need to be a UI on that, or can an agent actually go away and do all the tasks of collecting customer feedback, analyzing it, and then implementing what needs to be done based on that customer feedback? So it's going to be very interesting couple of years, but I think we're in the right place, and we're trying to encourage everyone to be in this space as well, of just being aware of what the changes in AI are and what the new capabilities are. Because I think it's better to be aware of what's happening and able to embrace it than to kind of ignore it and pretend it's not happening. To be one of the first people implementing this stuff, to try and get ahead. So, we're going to 100% be covering a lot of that on the podcast, and me and Kieran obviously looking into it as well. So, yeah, very, very exciting time, but lots of change.
Yeah, I think a good piece of homework for everyone, which is something I've been trying to do this week, is just to go into something like Zapier or Make and like try and automate something that you do on a regular basis. And you just learn so much. Like it is, sometimes it can be very frustrating and fiddly, but sometimes you just get amazing results, and it doesn't have to be very complicated. Like the thing I've been working on this week is just if I upload a video file to a Google Drive folder, um, I have an automation running in make.com, which then will use like OpenAI to transcribe the video, and then it will take the transcription and it will write me like a YouTube description and suggest some ideas for like newsletters based on that video, and write some social media content. So like very simple automations that everyone's been doing for a long time. But once you start doing those things, you start thinking of the possibilities. And certainly when you think about agents, which for me, I think agents are really just kind of slightly advanced AI workflows, aren't they, really? I think like there's not much difference between having a kind of a workflow where it's like, okay, turn this transcript into different pieces of content, and then you just have a load of different AI instances which all have different like system prompts, and maybe they have some memory of past stuff they've done for you, so they have some context as well. But yeah, I don't think at the moment agents aren't much more advanced than that, really. They're not too different from your regular chat GPT, which has like some training data and memory of what you've been doing. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting. I think the first kind of real, slightly different approach to it that I've seen is in N8N, where it isn't so much a direct workflow that runs through, but the agent nodes actually have capability to make decisions on changing the pathway. So if thing X is true, after analysing it, it can go to that, and then it can loop and come back, and all that kind of stuff. Effectively, it is always still a workflow, but yeah, I think it's adding that intelligence that it can kind of autonomously decide. Okay, now I need to go and do this, then come back to this, and then try again, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think effectively they are very fancy workflows right now, and it's tools like N8N that are kind of the first where I've seen, okay, yeah, I can start to see how this can be, why they're branding it as an agent effectively, because it is able to kind of make decisions and do things slightly autonomously without requiring constant intervention to do stuff. And like we've seen with OpenAI's operator that came out on their kind of pro plan, the demos I've seen of it are very impressive, but it does still require quite a bit of human intervention when it's doing stuff. So I guess we're very early days in all this, but yeah, very exciting to follow along where it's going.
Yeah, and so in make.com you can, I have seen tutorials where people have an AI which analyzes the input, and then it makes a decision. You tell it, okay, got 5 different like categories for this, respond with one, and maybe in like a JSON format, and then you use one of their like routers, which will then route it down a different path depending on which category it chooses. So you can kind of build that in make.com, and it feels kind of like an agent, and you can obviously connect it to your calendar and your email, so it does have abilities. I'm not sure if you can actually loop it back into like the same bot, the same like AI instance though. So that's the thing that doesn't feel quite like an agent, because you can't reuse the same like node multiple times in a flow. It's kind of more linear than that. But yeah, anyway, it's really good to learn about this stuff and just play around, really. Like, yeah, if everyone's just playing around with this stuff, you learn little things. Even just, even if you don't have accounts, just watching tutorials, like I find them quite fascinating, seeing what people are doing with this technology, and it's always sparking ideas. And yeah, if you can apply it to your own life or to your startup, then you're going to be way ahead of most people.
Yeah, and I think exactly like you say, start with trying to automate something simple. That's where I've started in N8N. because obviously it takes a while to pick up any new tool. So rather than trying to build one of these crazy complicated agents that I'm sure we've all seen the screenshots being shared on X of all the amazing agents that you can do with N8N, I think, like you say, start with something simple and learn the basic principles. Watch, there's some great YouTube tutorials out there about how to do like a basic agent or even a basic flow in N8N just to get started, or Make or Zapier. They all kind of have a lot of these capabilities, and they're changing very quickly. So yeah, that's the other kind of thing. Is like the second you've watched a tutorial, they're almost out of date straight away because the platforms are changing. But it's very, very exciting. So yeah, I think for this week that's kind of a wrap. I think we've got quite a short one there. We've got a ton of stuff coming up in the next episode, and also we did publish a really interesting interview with George Collier, who is a bit of a Bubble legend. If you've ever used the forum, you'll have seen him. But we did a post with him about his top security tips for Bubble. You can watch the video of that on createwith.com, and it's also in our newsletter. So make sure you're signed up for the newsletter at createwith.com as well. We post all the stuff we talk about in here every week, and there's a bunch of tutorials, our favorite links, everything in there, and that comes out every Tuesday. So make sure you get that. It's totally free, of course. And of course, we've got the tickets to the Create With conference that's coming up on May the 22nd. You can also register for those at createwith.com. And we've been announcing all the speakers. So if you keep an eye out on socials, you'll see all the amazing speakers that we've got coming. People talking about AI, no-code tools, business, marketing. It's a really, really great mix of speakers that we've got coming together. So all of that to look forward to. But yeah, I think that's it for this, Kieran. Any final thoughts?
No, not this week. Yeah, just you've got homework now, everyone. Just go out and do a little automation. Make.com, Zapier, N8N, whichever one. But yeah, see what you can do, because it's just good to be on top of this stuff.
That's it. Go and give it a try and get started with something simple. And let us know what you make. We'd love to hear from you. So you can drop us a reply on X or LinkedIn and share what you've made. But yeah, that's it for this week. We will see you again very soon. Bye bye.
Cheers, everyone.